Hello, this is lesson number 2, reading and note-taking in academic studies skills development. This will enhance your academic performance through effective reading and note-taking. We'll provide you with different techniques and methodologies on how to read effectively and take notes in class. This will ensure your success in your studies and will make you a better prepared student. So, why are we learning about reading and note-taking? The purpose of this presentation will be to explore the essential role of reading and note-taking in academic setting, and also to introduce effective strategies for reading and note-taking that enhance learning and retention. In other words, we will focus on why reading and note-taking is important in academic setting, and how we can read effectively and take notes in a way that enables you to retain what you have learned. Effective reading helps students comprehend and retain complex academic material. What that means is, if you read in a way that you are focusing on what you're reading and analyze it, you will be able to comprehend it better and retain the information, even if the text you are reading is complex. So, to go further, we will learn about ways in which you can read information and pick out what's important in order to be a successful student. The other point is, organized and strategic note-taking aids in creating and reviewing key information for assignments, exams, and research. What that means is, if you take your notes in an organized way, you will be able to go back to the information you have, review it, especially in the times for when you are doing your assignments, or when you are revising for your exams, or when doing a research project. Okay, we will look into different techniques and methods to have organized and strategic note-taking. Okay, the goal of this is to understand key reading strategies that promote active learning. So you don't just read the information, but you are actively learning what you have read and you are applying your knowledge. And the other goal is to learn note-taking techniques that improve memory, organization, and productivity. So you'll be a student that has more knowledge and understanding about the material presented to them. You'll be better able to produce organized work that you will be able to retain without difficulty. So, why is it important to be able to read effectively and take notes? Reading is essential for comprehension and critical thinking. We will look at what critical thinking is later, as you might be quite familiar with, what is comprehension? Comprehension is understanding your material. Reading is important for comprehension, fluency in reading comprehension. You gain more vocabulary. You will be able to produce coherent and cohesive sentences. Working memory and attention, decoding the reading and digesting the information given to you. Also, reading is important for critical thinking. So what is critical thinking? Critical thinking is when you actively and skillfully conceptualize and apply your knowledge and information that was provided to you. Is when you analyze the materials and weigh up and synthesize by also reflecting and observing. Evaluating information gathered and by observing experience, reflection and reasoning as a guide to the actions. So generally speaking, there are 7 steps to critical thinking: reflection, analysis, acquisition of information, creativity, structuring arguments, decision making, commitment. So it's a way of applying your knowledge and understanding what you have read. Okay? It helps in creating information, for example, for exams and research. It's important when you are doing your projects and revising for your examinations to be able to think critically and be able to understand what you have read. Active reading enhances engagement and understanding. What that means is, when you are reading, you're not just reading for fluency and just to go through the materials. You are reading to stop at what you have read and understand it in a way that you will enhance your knowledge and understanding. And we'll move on to the next step, which is note-taking. Note-taking reinforces memory and improves retention. Okay, memory and retention are linked because any retained information is kept in human memory store. So if you take notes effectively, you will have the ability to remember information over time without needing to search for it all over again. Okay, so note-taking also clarifies concepts and organizes your thoughts. So as a student, it's very important for you to have your notes organized and in a way that is easily understandable by yourself more than anyone else. So if you learn techniques that will make it easier for you to take notes more effectively, you'll be able to not only organize your work but also your thought processes and your information retention. Okay, and it serves as a valuable review tool for exams and assignments. So if you take your notes effectively from the beginning of the term, from the start of your studies, you won't need to go back and re-study and relearn when it comes to exam time and assignment submission time. You will always have your information collected and collated in a way that will make it easier for you to revise or prepare for your exams and assignments. So, what are the best note-taking techniques for academic success? One way is mind mapping, and this is a visual diagram starting with a central idea and branching out with related topics and subtopics. So, in other words, mind mapping involves writing down a central theme in the middle of your page and thinking of new and related ideas which branch out of it, of that center. And the benefits of mind mapping is that it's great for visual learners and helps organize complex ideas and connects concepts clearly. Okay, so if you're a visual learner, someone who can easily understand information by if they are presented in an organized way, this will help you greatly, and it will make the information that you have in a simplified way without too much detail. So, for example, if you are reading a large text, an article, or an information from a book, if you have the central idea in the middle and you have branching out ideas just to simplify the information that you have learned or collected, so in a way that you can present your findings, and then you can find or understand the connection between different concepts very clearly and in an organized way. Okay, the next technique is outlining, and this is using a hierarchical format where the main topics are used as headings, and then there are bullet points and subheadings to talk about the subtopics. Just like here, so mind mapping, so that's the main idea, that's outlining it. Okay, outlining, that's the hierarchical, and then the bullet points explain the subtopics or further explain the points that were presented. Yeah. The next technique is sentence method. This method is where you write full sentences for each idea that you're presented with, and you capture the materials as they are presented to you. So the benefits of this is when you're in a lecture and you don't have a lot of time to write everything that is being said or presented to you, so you write one full sentence for each new idea that comes up, and this will help you capture the detailed information, and you can go back and review what you have learned and later on make further notes if you like. So the sentence you write is basically summarizing what is being said at that moment. Okay, and this is so that you can go back if you have questions, you can go back to your lecturer and ask specific questions about specific topics, and you already have outlined everything that you were unsure about. Another method is boxing method. This is where you create distinct boxes around key concepts or themes, different ideas that were presented, different topics. Each one will have its own box. And so again, this is useful for visual learners, and you can organize your information into manageable chunks, making them easier to look back into and review later for specific topics. Anything that needs clarifying, or can use, for example, different colors for different how important something is, or something that is more urgent or needs to be looked at. Yeah, you can always personalize your own. You can take an idea and make it your own kind of personal way of doing something. Okay, another method is flow-based note-taking, and this is combined text, visuals, and arrows to show the flow of ideas. So you use this is like, you won't have too much text. You kind of are digesting the text and minimizing complex information. So instead of just having them in the, like for example, the way that it was the outlining, instead of having bullet points and structured like that, you can have them flowing around the page with arrows and different diagrams, just to show the flow of ideas. So as a business student, this will be important in, for example, when you're talking about marketing, for example, sales, so presenting different ideas. So you'll show how ideas flow together. This will encourage creativity and help visualize relationship between ideas, and it will help you understand complex concepts and digest information into smaller bites. Okay, after looking at the techniques and ways of reading and note-taking, we have a task here. So this task will help you practice your active reading. So you have specific instructions, and there's a passage here. You read it, and then there are follow-up questions in the following slides. So it says here, read the following passage carefully and then use the strategies discussed in the lesson to take notes. Be sure to highlight key points, ask questions, and make connections to what you already know. So to further explain this, you're not only reading the information that's presented, you're also choosing a method that suits you as a student to make notes about what you have read, so you make the information you're presented with more understandable to yourself and make connections with what you already know. Okay, so for example, where it says here, be sure to highlight key points, you can use, for example, the outline method. Use headings and subheadings and bullet points to outline and highlight the key points. Okay, so this should be quite straightforward, and everyone should try and have a go at their tasks. So here we have a preview the text. So this is basically a question that you can ask yourself before you read the text in detail. What are the key themes and concepts you expect to encounter in this passage. So look at the title, the subheading, and all bold italized text if available, and then give your answer. Yeah. Number 2, active reading. So while you're reading the passage, you have to underline or highlight what's important. Or things that you find interesting or essential. So you can answer the following questions. It says here, write down any questions that arise as you read. So, key points to highlight, and then questions. Okay, so number 3 is making connections. So this is basically helping you make notes. Okay, so before you start reading a text, you do number 1, you look at it, kind of judge what you're looking at or what it might be about. Number 2, you read it actively, and so while you're reading it, you're underlining and highlighting the information that's popping out to you, and then ask yourself some questions about it. And then finally, you make connections. So how does this passage relate to something that you have learned? So here you're applying your knowledge, okay, previously in other courses or your own experience. So this will help you understand what you have read, and you're applying your knowledge, and you'll be able to retain the information in a more effective way. So in the future, when somebody asks you about this topic, you can go back to the notes you have made here, the questions you ask yourself, and it's easier for you to actually recall what you have learned because you already asked yourself the essential questions and you understood what you have been writing about or reading about, rather than just passively reading it, or yeah. So these steps will make your reading comprehension more fluent, and also you'll be able to use your critical thinking skills and methodologies. So have a go at the task. And here we have the second part of the task, which is related to note-taking practices. So using effective techniques. Okay. Instructions. Now that you have read the passage, practice taking notes using one of the following techniques: the Cornell method, mind mapping, or outlining. Choose one method and organize your notes for the following content. So the Cornell method is Q column, key terms and questions. So you write down the important terms and questions based on the reading, and in the notes section you summarize the main idea and the details from the reading. The mind mapping, as we explained earlier, is when you draw a circle in the middle, the main idea from the passage, and branch out with related ideas and concepts. Or you can outline by organizing the key points in structured outlines using headings and bullet points. Okay, so you choose one of these methods and you take notes using that method. Okay. So for example, if you're a visual learner, somebody who likes to be creative, you can do mind mapping, draw the central idea in the middle, and branch out for each connecting concept or idea or explanation. Or if you like to have structured work, so you can have outlining, and you organize your information into, so you make a heading and a subheading and bullet points explaining what you have just read. And that way you are making the text more manageable and less complex and easy to read, more clear for your understanding. Okay, so the question says apply the note-taking method, and the answer provide a space for, okay, yeah, space provided for you to answer the or make notes on what you have just read. Okay, so final and third part of the task is to reflect and review on what you have just read, the ways you have learned information or retained information in the note-taking. So you answer the following reflection questions based on what you have read and your note-taking process. Okay, so what challenges did you face while taking notes, and how did you overcome them? So things that you found challenging or difficult to do, and what you did to overcome that challenge. And the second one is, how did the active reading strategies, previewing, annotating, and summarizing help you understand the materials? So to go back on it, so what was previewing is when you were making an idea about what you have read, and then annotating is you answering questions and highlighting, and summarizing is applying your knowledge and what you have learned from what you have read. Yeah. So how did that help you understand the material? Okay, so the final question is, looking back at your notes, what could you do differently to improve your note-taking techniques next time? Things that can be improved. You can also talk about things that you did well, so then you can apply that again to another session or task. So finally, overcoming challenges and conclusion. Okay, common challenges is information overload, distractions, and disorganized notes. When you have too much information and they are difficult to read, or you have distractions, for example, too much doodling around your work, too many arrows or scribbles, that will make it more difficult for you to read your notes or go back on them. So then it's good practice to manage your time effectively, stay focused, and organize your notes in a clear way that you yourself will be able to go back on them, read and understand, especially when it comes to preparing for assignments and examinations. So you're better prepared to become a more successful student. So, in conclusion, mastering reading and note-taking is key to academic success, and regular practice will enhance comprehension, retention, and performance. This will hopefully enable you to be a better organized student and a more successful individual in the future.